It's time for the Hockey Writers Grindline, a weekly show covering everything Detroit Red Wings. Brought to you by our own iconic top line of Wings writers. Sit back and enjoy The Grind.
Welcome to the Hockey Writers Grindline. Before we get started, this week's show is being brought to you by the Hockey Writers Sports Betting Guide, a brand new source for your daily sports betting odds, lines, props, and futures, as well as daily fantasy strategies and analysis. Make sure to follow THW Bets on Twitter to get the latest on everything sports betting. Also, if you decide to bet, please do so responsibly. And if you or anyone you know has a problem with gambling, please check out our resources in the description below. I'm your host, Kyle Knopp, and today I'm joined by my line mate, Devin Little. Devin, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. It's Memorial Day weekend, so have some fun plans ahead of me. I don't know about you, but yeah, happy to be here with you, Kyle.
Always excited to be here on a Friday. It's always fun. We got the long weekend, American holiday this weekend. Last weekend was Victoria Day in Canada. So yeah, back-to-back long weekends for North America. That's always good. Also joining us is our favorite E-Bug, our eager to back up as a grinder, Matthew Zator. Matt, how are you today?
Doing good. Happy to be back on the show and to talk some Red Wings and off-season stuff. So yeah, happy to get going.
Oh, we're always happy to have you here. Always love having you fill in. Patrick is on a sabbatical with his family, cross-country road trip. So everyone, thoughts and prayers to him. He's got two little ones under 4 years old in a car for miles upon miles. So
good luck.
If you're listening to this on your Saturday treks, Patty, hello, everyone. Hello, Brown family. Good luck. All right, well, let's dive right into it. And let's start with a one good and one bad from the week. And we'll do it from anywhere around the hockey world, not necessarily the Red Wings. So I'll start. My good this week has just been the playoffs. Have been a lot of fun. Continuing to watch those. There have been a lot of great matchups. Tampa Bay Lightning looks to be like a team ready to win 3 in a row. So they are very exciting.
Yeah.
And then my bad for the week is the Battle of Alberta is already over.
Yes.
Calgary did not show up after game 1, and here we are 5 games later, and the Edmonton Oilers are on to their first Western Conference final in the Connor McDavid era. So that is my one good and one bad this week. And Matt, we'll come to you first.
Yeah, my good is I'd say my good has been the playoffs too. I mean, they've been actually probably the most exciting playoffs I've watched in a while, like of all the series. I'm not just because I'm covering them on post-game shows and stuff, so I got to watch them. But, it's been fun. And especially that Battle of Alberta was really good, even though it was short.
Yeah.
It was really exciting. Lots of stuff happening in the 5 games. It actually felt like 7. About how many goals that were scored and how much stuff happened. Like you could pick something and it happened in that series. So, and it was only 5 games. So imagine what it would have been like if it was 7. So pretty amazing. And then my bad is that that it's over and that's over. And the fact that, that some of the teams didn't show up. Like the Florida Panthers was a big one. I think that was my biggest bad, is that a team that dominated so much during the regular season. And yes, they made it through the first round barely. But then the second round, they couldn't compete with the Lightning at all. Like it looked like their top players just went asleep. And I wanted that series to go more than 4 games. I thought it was going to be a back and forth. It would last a lot longer. And those 2, Battle of Alberta, Battle of Florida, sure ended really quick. So that was my bad for the playoffs so far.
I don't mean to take anything away from the Battle of Alberta by calling it my bad. I'm just upset that it's over already.
Over.
And same with the Battle of Florida. Our 2 territorial battles are done, within 5 games, both 4 and 5. And here we go, Colorado, St. Louis could go 7, which everyone thought would be done by now. And the Hurricanes and Rangers could go 7, which I think a lot of people thought just because no one can win on the road in that series.
Yeah.
True story.
Which is also a part of the bad, it's been kind of hard to watch, so sorry, Dean, if you're watching this as well, but yeah, so I mean, there was a lot of good to take away from that Battle of Alberta. I mean, there's historical nights. Last night was the fastest score goals in NHL history, in playoff history. Game 1 was one of the highest scoring games in playoff history. It was just absolutely a lot for everyone. And so, that's why we're sad that it's done. So, all right, Devin, we'll come over to you. What were your one good and one bad takeaways from this past week?
Well, real quick, I'm sure if you asked any Calgary fan up there, I'm sure they would tell you that the series should have at least gone to Game 6. But that's a conversation for a different podcast. My one good and one bad are kind of the same thing. Dylan Larkin changed his agency a day or two ago, and it's good. And this kind of goes into the bad, but his previous agency released a statement about the matter. And then in the statement they said that they were already beginning to work on Larkin's next contract with the Red Wings. So basically the good news there is that the Red Wings are trying to sign Dylan Larkin to a contract extension. There is work being done on that end. So he's their top center, arguably their most important player. He's their captain. So it's good to see that there's motion, there's a negotiations already in motion. Now the bad, you don't usually fire people if you think they're doing a good job. So clearly Larkin thought that his previous representatives were not representing him well enough. So he went out and got a new agency. And what that tells me is that Red Wings should expect to give Larkin a healthy raise on this next extension. I'm sure he was going to get one anyways, but it probably wasn't looking like it was going to be as much of a raise as he was hoping for. So really interested to see A, if and when this gets done, and then B, what number it comes in at, because sounds like Larkin's ready to cash in.
I'm really, really glad you bring this up and I'm sure we'll talk about it in a couple segments from now as we talk about a certain article that came out this week. But I mean, this is some cause for concern for Red Wings fans, because it sounds like he's not necessarily going to take a team friendly deal, or he might be interested in testing some waters if it comes down to that. So it'll be interesting to see what plays out from all of this, but we all hope that Larkin will be back in the winged wheel for many seasons to come. All right, moving along. The Philadelphia Flyers have been busy this week interviewing John Tortorella and Barry Trotz for their open head coaching position. The Red Wings have yet to interview anyone that we know of publicly for this position, for their open head coaching position. So is there a cause for concern that the Wings haven't started on their own interviews, or does this lend to believe that Yzerman has someone else or something else in mind? And Devin, I want to start with you. Where does this inactivity among the Wings compared to the Philadelphia Flyers land on your radar?
Well, first and foremost, I want to start by saying it's not just the Flyers, right?
That's true.
It's the Stars. Yeah. It's the Golden Knights.
The Golden Knights had one or two that they're, It's just the Flyers have gone after the high profile ones.
Yes. And so, just to begin with, just in the overall situation, the Red Wings were already going to have competition. It wasn't like they're going to have their pick of the litter. And I have seen reports that the Red Wings are interested in talking with Trotz. I don't know if they've done it or yet, but there is interest there with him at least. And at the end of the day, what that comes down to is whether or not Trotz wants to come onto a team that's, still building. If a team like Winnipeg, who is feasibly or, seemingly closer, gives him a good deal and gives him more what he wants, then, he's going to go there. Long story short, I'm not really concerned about the inactivity or at least, the lack of noise coming out of the Red Wings coaching search, because that's Yzerman's MO. You rarely hear what's going on with the Red Wings until it's happened. Remember last year, they were the one team whose expansion pick had not leaked
Yes.
5 hours before the expansion draft. And that's Yzerman's, that's Yzerman. So I honestly don't expect to hear anything crystal clear on this coaching search until pretty much the day it's going to actually become official. So if you're a Red Wings fan and you're seeing Tortorella interview with the Flyers and Trotz interview with the Jets and this guy interview with that team, don't worry about it. It's not like Yzerman's not doing his due diligence. He's getting paid handsomely to do it, and he's got a track record of success in doing so. So honestly, I would say that no news is good news, because that means that Yzerman is still keeping things, tight to his chest, and that's what you want out of the general manager.
Great point. And I think absolutely all of that is warranted, that, we love Yzerman. We trust his vision. And part of him is that, holding that close to the chest and not giving away his hand. And, he joked about it, like, people always think I'm up to something cunning, but I don't like to discuss my thoughts with people. And so, I mean, that's, I love him for that. And, so if, for what it's worth, I agree. I think that no news is good news, like you said, Devin. Matt, coming over to you, would like to get your thoughts, especially as someone that's kind of seeing the same situation in Vancouver. Is there cause for concern that the Wings haven't been active, or at least open in their activity of interviewing coaches right now? Or does this lend, in your mind, to Yzerman having something else in mind?
Well, I agree with what Devin said about Yzerman. I mean, in the past, it's what he's shown. He runs a tight ship, and I don't know how he does it, because the age of social media and phones and whatever, like, these guys, they hear. Yeah. But if Yzerman's not talking to people, and the people he is talking to, he trusts to not say anything. And, that's why. I mean, everyone's trusted. Hey, I talked to you. You're not going to go and blab it to a media or someone that can hear it and put it on Twitter or whatever. But I mean, I'm surprised. I mean, everywhere else gets these like insiders, like Sarah Valley and guys that they get these whispers. And, that's how the expansion draft got messed up, because, Sarah Valley's going and tweeting every time he's hearing that someone's going to get picked. So I kudos to Yzerman for keeping a tight ship, because it's very hard in this day and age. I mean, in the past, you could probably do it with no technology and all that, not as much. So, but in this day and age, it's pretty hard to do, and he's done it. Now, answer your question. I mean, the coaching thing, I don't think you should, everyone has to worry about it, because he knows what he's doing. We've seen in the past. I think it was Larry that said, and on last or the 2 episodes ago, about this coaching thing, and that he'll probably go after someone that no one's going to expect. It's not going to be that's what he did in Tampa. He promoted the guy from, in the minors, but I think he's going to go off the board. He's not going to hire Barry Trotz. He's not going to hire a John Tortorella type coach. I think he's going to be hiring someone that's going to be maybe younger to you can kind of mold into who you want with this team. So, and don't worry. I don't think everyone should worry about it at all. He'll find the right coach. And like you said before, this is his first, decision to make a head coach. So it's not, he's going to want to do it right. So, be patient. He'll find the right guy. And when it happens, like Devin said, you'll find out on the day it's going to happen.
Patience. Go ahead, Devin.
Yeah.
And then real quick, I just want to throw out, I want to say Elliot Friedman went on a podcast recently. I want to say it was Winged Wheel podcast. I could be wrong. But he basically said that the thing with Yzerman and reporting on, anything he does is that in the past, he or somebody else reported on something they had heard about Yzerman or like what he was going to do, and it was wrong. And Yzerman gave him an earful. So now you've got reporters who are hesitant to report on anything unless they are 1000% sure. And that's what you want. So there might be whispers out there, but they can't 100% verify it. And they do not want to incur Yzerman's wrath.
And that is certainly a good thing to have as a GM, of your organization. So for what it's worth, I like I just said a little bit ago, I don't think there's any cause for concern. As much as there are some good big name coaches out there, it might not be right for this team to recycle one of those guys. And it might be right to bring someone else up either from the AHL or from overseas, or, and let them kind of evolve with the team and really find their identity, as that person as a coach and the team's identity into one. So great points, both of you. And right before we move on, I just want to mention, Matt, I think John Cooper is going to be very pleased to hear, for the first time in a long time, to be referred to as that guy promoted from the minors. So, I think that's the first time he's able to fly under the radar in quite a few years. So I'm sure he'll like that a bit. All right, moving on. On Monday, our fearless and often absent Grindline member, Tony Wallach, was released an article.
Holy cow.
Released an article. No, we love you, Tony. Titled Red Wings Rebuild, Contend or Continue to Tear Down. And in this article, he gives two options. Obviously there are quite a few options out there. There's a lot of ways the Red Wings could do it, but he addressed two different options. Option one was to continue the rebuild, trade Bertuzzi and some of the other guys, including Rasmussen, Verana, Samuelson, anyone that you could, get rid of, maybe not Samuelson, and then build around Larkin, Sider, and Raymond, and then all of those other guys, Kosa and Edmondson coming up. But that might then lead to a losing culture, which could lead to a bad culture and identity moving forward. The second option would be to push for immediate success and pull from the free agency to go into a win now mode, kind of like the old prof wrote about the summer of Kauai for Toronto Maple Leafs. Would Detroit do something similar? But that option could lead to a ruined future after a win now mode is over. So I want to get both of your thoughts on this. And Devin, I want to start with you. What are your thoughts on Tony's article titled Red Wings Rebuild, Contend or Continue to Tear Down? And do you think the Red Wings are in a place where they should consider to contend now, or should they continue to tear down and rebuild around their smaller core of players?
First and foremost, if you haven't yet, go check out that article. Tony does a great job as per usual. Now I have a couple of thoughts. One, I don't think if the plan was to keep tearing down, I think Blashill would still have a job in Detroit. I think that, pretty much, based on what happened, I think Yzerman saw Blashill as the rebuild coach, as kind of like the stable force while everything else was in flux. So now that, they're going to hire a new coach, I think that Yzerman wants to kick this rebuild into a new phase. And it's a phase that they're building towards the playoffs, not continuing to tear down. Now, with that being said, I think the answer is kind of somewhere in the middle. We talked about this on the show multiple times. This team, how they are right now, next year, they could push for a playoff spot. They really could. Even if they don't add anybody, they could just, and they just get improvement from Sider and Raymond, and they add Edmondson and they add Berggren. They could get better and push for a playoff spot with just that. But they also have this cap space that they can use to bring in a big time free agent. I'm not saying that they should do it, but they can. Long story short, they have the means to push towards the playoffs, and they're building towards it. I don't think that they should completely tear down, because that undoes all the progress that they had the past couple of years. And then for just to kind of close out the thought, this is a team that at some point you need to see things pay off. It's good to see progress in, finishing 24th instead of 28th, but at some point you want to finish in those playoffs. And the more you tear down, the further it gets away. Now, if the Red Wings are in a position to trade a Tyler Bertuzzi, for example, at next year's deadline, do it, because those years are running out, and get those assets while you can. But that doesn't mean, tear it all down. Just get the assets you can, but keep building towards the end goal that has been the end goal all along, and that's getting back to the playoffs and then becoming a Tampa Bay-esque cup contender.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right there, Devin. Tampa actually was going through a similar situation when Yzerman came in. They had won in 2004. They had been kind of mediocre up through the early 2000s, and about around 2010 when Yzerman came on. It was kind of in the same situation. Do we go for a win now mode or do we build for the future? And I think he did a great job of kind of walking that line and being able to bring in guys to stay competitive, but also build toward the future. So I think you're absolutely right there. Matt, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. What do you think about Tony's article? Should the Red Wings continue to tear down by trading names like Bertuzzi, Fabry, Suter, Vrana, and just build around the Siders, Raymonds, Edvardsons, and Kosas? Or should they use that cap space and look for a win now window?
I don't think they should do the win now thing. I mean, it in my experience in Vancouver, it hasn't worked. I mean, you have these pieces and you start bringing in high priced third liners, guys like that, just to see, we're going to be able to contend now. And then you have cap space issues when you have to re-sign these young guys. It doesn't work because you don't win now. So it's it's no point. But the tear and the things, the complete tear down I don't think works either, because you're taking one step forward, one step back. So you have to find that happy medium. Really hard to do. I mean, but Yzerman seemed to do it in Tampa. Yes, they had their high end guys, like they had Stamkos. They had, I believe when he was there, before he came there, they had Stamkos already.
And Hedman.
Hedman. So they had two big pieces to build on. Yeah. Right now they've got Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider, two big pieces to build around. But Tampa Bay also found those late round picks that just came up, and like the Palats and the Points. Those guys have come out. Killorn's another one, late round pick. The Red Wings have to start finding guys. Sorelli's another one. Yeah. I mean, they build their team on these guys that they found in the later rounds. And while they're winning, they can still get guys coming up. And it's still happening. Ross Colton, guys like that. They were able to trade a guy to get Nick Paul. So he's, similar.
Yeah. Matthew Joseph.
Yeah. So
I love Joseph. I was sad to see him go, but Paul's fit in well. So,
well, he could leave too because he's unrestricted, but
true.
And that's what the Red Wings got to do. Keep, have that, could be able to win, but also have these late round picks come up. And they do have a few. Soderblom, I believe, is a later round pick. He looks like could be something. They've got a few other guys in the system that could potentially be that. So I think the Red Wings are on a right path the way they're doing it right now. Like Devin said, you get, if you can trade Tyler Bertuzzi at the deadline to get more assets, you do it. You do those deals, but don't go crazy or doing that summer Kawhi thing, which I think is ridiculous, by the way. First of all, the first time I'm like, what is this? What summer of Kawhi? I'm like, oh wait, that's a Raptors. It's all basketball. But I was confused. But
you guys are savages today.
But it's a holiday weekend, man. We're going all out.
We're wet and loose.
You continue what you're doing right now and find those late gems. And I think the Red Wings are on the right path in that respect. So,
I absolutely agree. I think you're both 100% right. You find that middle ground, and, not to take away from Tony's article. And the reason I wanted to bring it up today is because not only was it a great article and the options for both are really well laid out, but it is a fine line. And as a NHL GM, you have to be able to find how to walk that, because, if every team could just go through a win now mode, they would. And the Red Wings, although they have the cap, they don't have all the pieces that would help support bringing in one or two big free agents in a win now mode. But also at the same time, if you completely tear down and continue to rebuild around your two rookies, you're going to, like you said, take a step backward. And there's no guarantee that you're going to end up with that number 1 or number 2 overall pick. Yeah. And so it's one of those things. And we talked about this at length last offseason, and it's probably going to come up numerous times this year and next year. But the Red Wings are going to be in that purgatory for a little bit of time and need to kind of work their way through it as a team and develop that identity. You can't just plug and place players in on this type of team and expect there to be a Stanley Cup winning mentality and identity there. There's just too many pieces that are left to be placed. So I think for what it's worth, you continue walking that line, you continue to rebuild, you move the guys like the Bertuzzis at the deadline if you can, but you keep what you have and you just continue to build off of what you put together this last season.
Yeah. Real quick, just to cap off this topic, what I always think of when it comes to a situation kind of like this is the Blackhawks in the beginning of their dynasty years, because they let Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews and Duncan Keith and those guys propel them forward. They got to the Western Conference Final in 2009, and once they saw, all right, we've got a team here, then they went out and signed Marian Hossa in the free agency. Then they won the cup the next year. You've got to let your guys, your kids that you develop, propel your team forward before you artificially propel it with a free agent signing.
You don't build through free agency.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we're talking, the Red Wings have cap space in the 2025 season, then maybe you do go out and find that 1 or 2 pieces that are going to be your win now pieces. But I think we're still a couple of years away from that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a quick breath and reset the show. This is the Grind Line with Kyle Knopp, and I'm here with Devin Little and Matt Zator, and we're talking Red Wings hockey. Before we get back into it, we wanted to remind you that this show is brought to you by the Hockey Writers Sports Betting Guide, a brand new guide for your daily sports betting odds, lines, props, and futures, as well as some daily fantasy strategies and analysis. Make sure to follow THW Bets on Twitter to get the latest on everything sports betting. Also, if you do decide to bet, please do so responsibly. And if you or anyone you know has a problem with gambling, please check out the resources in the description below. Moving along, we want to talk about the International Ice Hockey Federation World Championships that are happening right now, and those Red Wings that are currently over there. We have Moritz Seider playing for Germany, who had 2 goals, 5 assists for 7 points with a +5 rating in 8 games played. Pius Suter for Switzerland had 3 goals, 5 assists for 8 points with a +2 in 8 games played. While Vrana and Hronek from Czechia had 1 goal, just a game winner in 8 games played, and Hronek had 1 assist with a +2 rating in those 8 games, while Magnus Hellberg led the way for Sweden with a 1.47 goals against average, a .932 save percentage, 1 shutout in 4 games played, as he split time with Magnus Allmark from Buffalo. And so, he was the more stellar of the 2 Sweden goaltenders, I would say. So I want to get your thoughts on what these Red Wings have done at the Worlds. And Matt, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on how our Red Wings did while they were over there in Finland this season, or this summer, I should say?
Well, I mean, there are a few standouts. Pius Suter was 3 goals, 5 assists. So that's pretty good. Only really had 15 all year.
Switzerland went undefeated. Yeah.
So I mean, that's pretty good. He's playing on top line. He's probably their best forward, one of their best forwards on Switzerland. So he's getting plenty of opportunity, and he's taking advantage of it. So not in the tournament anymore, got eliminated, but he produced. And then it was too bad we couldn't see Lucas Raymond over there, but I understand why he didn't. I mean, he played a full NHL season. I mean, Seider did too, but
Seider's a machine, though.
Seider looked good, though. I mean, he's not in it anymore, but only 2 guys left are Hronek and who's the other guy?
Vrana.
Vrana. I mean, those 2 left, and then Jeff Blashill. Who's not a Red Wing anymore, but he is over there.
Yeah, Blashill, assistant coach for Team USA. Their young Americans shut out the undefeated Swiss national team. So in the quarterfinals. And as much as we hate to say it, Blashill's going to be playing for a medal this weekend. What color that will be determined on if Vrana and Hronek, or no, sorry, they're playing the Finns. So they might not even be playing them. So absolutely. Do you think, Matt, that Suter's production at this tournament will spill over into next season?
It's if it was right after, maybe. The season was right after, you can maybe get the comment. If it was like the Olympics and you just like fly right into the season again, but it's too long. I mean, he could probably take a bit from it that he potted some goals, but I think there's too big of a gap to kind of transfer over. But you'd hope. You can hope.
Absolutely. Devin, love to get your thoughts on the Red Wings at the World Championships. Who do you think stood out to you? Do you think any of these players will be able to continue this success next year? Or, in the case of maybe Hronek and Vrana, only 1 point each in 8 games played. Is there cause for concern with some of their play?
Well, I'm going to start with one thing that really caught my attention. It's a former Red Wing. It was a little bittersweet to see Franz Nielsen kind of say his goodbyes.
Yeah.
Obviously, the end of his time with the Red Wings wasn't as great as his earlier years, especially with the New York Islanders. But he was a good, solid player for most of his career, and he's hung him up, and you could see the emotion on his face when he was given that interview. So cheers to a good guy in the hockey world. Yes. Cheers. And then going to current Red Wings, it is a little, I'll say, troublesome to see Hronek and Vrana not producing like they can. It's even weirder that Vrana's not. Seems like apparently he can only score when he's wearing a Red Wings jersey, because even when he was a Capital, he didn't score at the rate that he's been scoring with the Red Wings.
I'm okay with that.
Oh, I'm okay with it too, but it's weird. Get that boy back in Detroit ASAP. But
in bubble wrap though.
Suter, I already talked about him. I'm baffled by his production, but I'm sure he's enjoyed playing with the likes of Nico Hischier and Timo Meier and others. So that helps. And then it is great to see Zator continuing to be Mo Zator, like whether it's the SHL, the AHL, the NHL, world competitions, this dude just dominates whatever level he's at. It's mind-boggling to see, because again, he's 21, I believe now. This dude's only going to get better, and he's already like a force of nature. So it doesn't need to be sad, but I'm going to say it anyways. The Red Wings got a good one with that kid.
Yes, absolutely. And the beautiful thing is he's still a couple of years away from his prime.
Which is
insane. When he gets that, actual man strength, like it's going to be insane to see him back there.
I want to say the NHL is just blessed with young, dynamic defensemen right now.
Absolutely.
Like, you just list them off. There's so many of them right now.
Well, we don't have time to list them off, but
that's why I did it. You know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. No, I agree though. I think Zator standing out, obviously coming into this, still dominating, still carrying over from his last 2 player of the year. He's going to be rookie of the year this year. Knock on wood, he should be. He was SHL rookie of the year, junior player of the year. So he just continues to dominate. Vrana, I agree. I think, Devin, you're absolutely right. It is a bit of a surprise, especially the way he came back so hot at the end of that season. And now he has 1 goal. I mean, granted, it was a big game winner, but only 1 goal in 8 games. And he should be, he's playing with the likes of Pasternak and Krejci and a lot of other guys who he should be able to get feeds from and get opportunities. And then again, Suter exploding, having Meier and Hischier on his line is amazing. But I think the one that really stood out to me was Hellberg. 4 games played, a sub 1.5 goals against, a 932 save percentage and 1 shutout. I mean, there's a lot of hope there that he might be the guy to back up Ned next year. So that brings me a lot of joy to see him performing over there.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to move into one lightning round before we wrap up the show here, starting to run out of time. So I want to get your quick thoughts on this. Ottawa is open to trading the 7th pick. So real quick, does this help or hurt the Red Wings at number 8? And should the Red Wings flirt with the idea of trading their 40th and 52nd picks in the round, maybe with sweeteners, to take on 2 first-round selections. And Devin, I'm going to come to you first. What are your thoughts on Ottawa looking to trade the 7th overall pick?
It could hurt the Red Wings depending on if they trade them and who they trade, if they trade it and who they trade it to, because if they trade it to a team like, say, the Minnesota Wild for Kevin Fiala, there could be a player like, Matthew Savoy or Jonathan Lekkerimäki or even like Brad Lambert on the board at 7, and the Red Wings are going, oh boy, he's going to be there at 8. And then the Minnesota Wild come in and swoop them up. So it could hurt them depending on who makes that pick at 7. In a bubble, I don't think it really affects the Red Wings one way or another, because Ottawa's either going to make the pick or they don't. But another team could come in that has a bigger need or like a clear need, and that could swipe one of those players. As for whether or not the Red Wings should trade for it, I'll answer that by asking you both a question. Would you guys trade Vrana for the 7th round or for the 7th overall pick 1-for-1? Because I think that is more or less what you'd be looking at. And I think that's an interesting thought to throw around, because 7th overall pick's not a small asset.
No, not at all. And I'll take this one first, but I mean, that's a good way to look at it. But I also think, you might be able to get a 7th overall pick, an 8th overall pick, and still have Vrana and really depth, deep in that second line. So I think you're absolutely right. There's certain, depending on the lens in which you view it through, there are pros and cons, but that's a good point. And I hope everyone lets us know down in the comments. All right, Matt, over to you. Ottawa is open to trading the 7th overall pick in the 2022 NHL draft. Will that help or hurt the Red Wings at the number 8 pick? And should the Red Wings flirt with the idea of trading to take on 2 first-round selections?
I think, well, like Devin said, I think it could hurt them depending on who gets it, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing. I agree with that. I mean, it depends on what they want. I mean, the team that gets that pick, they'll be like, well, we need a forward. We need, they're trading to get that pick for a reason. They got an eye on a player. So they'll pick them. And the thing is, it could be Minnesota. That's been floating around a lot, that Fiala being open. It could happen. I mean, if Ottawa was open to trading it, that 7th pick will get you, like Devin said, Lekkerimäki, Savoy, even it could be even to a defenseman. I mean, Korchinski is being talked about being traded, not traded. I'm selected in that area. I got skewered for saying Ottawa's going to pick him because they don't need defensemen. What the heck are you doing? So sorry. It happened. It happens.
But if he's the best available and he's going to fit a need there, then absolutely, why not? But that's I love it.
Maybe they do have a plethora of good defensemen, but Korchinski is a little bit different from what Ottawa has right now on defense. So that's a discussion for a different day. If you want to skewer me for that in the comments, you can again, I guess. But it's not Red Wings. But back to the subject. It went off topic a bit. I think you do. I mean, it does hurt them a bit if it does. But I do think if they have an opportunity to get into the first round to get another first round pick, you do it, because again, talking about building those young assets, you get another first round pick. Having said that, the second round has a few really interesting pieces in there too. You could get 2 because they have 2 second round picks, right?
Yeah.
Stay tuned for Prospects Corner tomorrow, because or on Sunday, because Devin will pick a couple of those guys to see who he thinks they should pick in that second round. So
and our little mock draft we did too.
That's right.
Week. Yeah,
that's coming too.
No, you
did not pick a Swede. Just saying.
Whoa! Spoiler alert!
It's not spoiler. I didn't say who it was.
Just
one in the second round.
No, man, I absolutely agree, and I think we've discussed this in the past with a couple of our guests, and a lot of what the draft is having as many darts as you can to throw at the dartboard and hope you hit a bullseye. And giving up 2 seconds when the second round is fairly deep for 1 extra first is tricky. If this were the 2023 draft, I would almost probably say, yeah, pull the trigger. Let's try and get two in the top 10. But in the 2022 draft, I think there might be too much, especially with the sweeteners added on, to really to move up and take two in the first round and lose both of your second round picks. So it'll be interesting to see what Ottawa does with that. I do think that could end up coming back to bite the Red Wings in the butt, especially if it's that Minnesota trade. But who knows? I think Yzerman knows who he's going to take, and he's always going to have a second and third option because you never know what's going to happen on draft day. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
All right. Finally, don't forget about the Hockey Writers Sports Betting Guide, a brand new source for your daily sports betting odds, lines, props, and futures, as well as some daily fantasy strategies and analysis. Make sure to follow THW Bets on Twitter to get the latest on everything sports betting. And if you decide to bet, please do so responsibly. If you or anyone you know has a problem with gambling, please check out the resources in the description below. Also, while you're down there, give us a like and a follow, hit the subscribe button to our YouTube channel, head over to our Twitter pages. Mine's right there. Follow us on there. And thank you for joining us for another edition of the Grind Line. From all of us here at the Hockey Writers and the Grind Line, we will see you next week.